Welcome to week 8. I trust you all had a wonderful Purim Sameach and ready for a new step in our work together in curriculum development. I'm excited about this particular unit because I'm a big fan of format. As you might have read from the introductory material, it was I who sort of discovered format many years ago, added it to this course, and then asked that the project Etgar, which was designing a new synagogue school curriculum for middle school grades, adapt it as the curricular model that they have done so well. And if you want to see some real fascinating and exciting examples of how format is used in Jewish education, see if you can arrange with Dr. Deborah Miller at the Melton Research Center under the Davidson School to see some of the format materials that were created for Project Etgar. I wanted to give you a very quick snapshot view of how exciting format can be. So I want to walk you through the steps that you have seen in some of the different videos and PowerPoints that have been presented to you, and allow you to hear from me why I get excited about it. So the core concept, or the big idea that I wanted to teach, let's say, 4th graders, was the idea of Hashavat Avedah, of returning a lost article. What do Jews do when they find a lost article in the street or in the schoolroom or on the floor, and what are our obligations and what are the thought processes that go behind it? So the first step in format is to create an experience. So my experience is that I walk into a classroom and I hold up and I say, I found this big pen at 42nd and Times Square today. Do I have to return it? Or can I keep it, or do I have to take out an ad in the New York Times in the Lost and Found section saying that I found a big pen? Now immediately I'm going to get a lot of discussion from 4th graders, to say the least. Then I change the circumstances. Okay, I found this big pen, but on this big pen, engraved, written in micrography, in microscopic Hebrew letters, is the entire Torah. The entire Torah in micrography. Can I keep the pen, or do I have to find its owner? I clearly will get a big discussion. And step 2 is to reflect. That's the experience. I just created a scenario, and now I'm going to ask students to talk about what happens when you find an everyday lost object like a pen, or if the pen has some particular distinguishing marks. And we will get a whole discussion from students reflecting on that experience. Step 3 is to integrate the observations into concepts, synthesize the reflections from previous personal experience into a visual or poetic image. Let's get it out of the verbal. So I bring into the classroom, or ask the children to bring into the classroom all kinds of magazines with pictures, and I ask them to cut out everyday items that they have seen that people lose and that people aren't quite sure whether they can keep or return. It might be everything from a cell phone to a coin to a dog to a piece of paper to a book, you name it, and we make a huge mural with all of those items, and we put them up on the wall in the room, and everybody understands that we're talking about everyday items that people lose or find, and how do we handle them. Step 4 is developing things into concepts. I then begin to teach them certain rabbinic concepts that come from Masechet Bava Metzia in the section that deals with Hashavat Avedah, and these are the issues that the Talmud talks about. Elu Metziyat Shalov, Elu Chayav Liachriz. Some things we find and they belong to us. Other things we have to make an attempt to return. And the Talmud goes on to give us all kinds of criteria. For example, if certain things have particular distinguishing marks, even if they're everyday objects, we have an obligation to try to find the owner. So the big pen with a Torah written in micrography would be such a distinguishing mark. We also have the concept of Yeush, that there's certain items that if the owner loses them, the owner despairs of ever finding them, like a big pen at 42nd and Times Square, and sort of gives up ownership of them. Then there's questions about, do they really despair? Would they try to get it back? And I give the students some concepts in Jewish law from Masechet Bava Metzia on how do you identify signs, what are the criteria for whether it's an object that's the owner has really discarded mentally and physically and you can keep it, or whether you have to go to the Even HaTo'ein, to the stone where over the course of Shalosh Regalim, 3 pilgrimage festivals, you have to announce that you have this object and see if you can find the owner. So that's teaching them some of the concepts. Then in step 5, using the information practically, I divide the students up into groups. I give them case scenarios. I give them cases, some from the Gemara, some that I make up, and I ask them, based on what you've learned now about the criterion for whether you can keep an object or have to find its owner, what would you do in each of these cases? So they get some practice, hands-on practice with the concepts. In step 6, where they're integrating the material with themselves, I ask them to go home and interview their parents and ask them if they've ever had incidents in their life where they have found an object and weren't quite sure what to do with it. Just keep it, try to find its owner. What did they have to do? Write it up as a case, bring it back into class. We'll analyze it and we'll see whether their parents were right or wrong according to rabbinic law and tradition. Step 7 is analyzing for usefulness and application. After we've done all of this and the students are beginning to get a real deep understanding of the nature of thinking about other people's property, I then ask them to undertake a planning process where we're going to go on a mission to rethink, redo, re-image the way our school handles lost and found articles, creating a new maybe lost and found center, figuring out other ways to show off clothing or things that kids have lost. When I was a Schechter principal, I had a wonderful assistant who would do a fashion show once a month and have the 6th graders model all of the lost clothing from the month before, and she would talk about this is Gucci or this is Gap or whatever, or this is Old Navy, and it was quite hysterical, but often kids would actually figure out that they lost something. I would also hold up a lot of those garments on back to school night because children often don't know what they own, but their parents remember. And then we do this whole campaign of raising everybody's awareness in the school, develop a whole new Hashavat Avodah program, maybe a new box or something where lost and found articles are placed, a new system for trying to find the owners, and we celebrate that. In step 8, which is a kind of celebration of learning, and talk about how we have applied it to our own lives. So I guarantee you that if a 4th grader studied the laws of Hashavat Avodah through this format method, this would be memorable teaching. They would remember how to do this and what this is all about for the rest of their lives. And one of the wonderful things about format is there were many steps to the circle. They deal with multiple intelligences. Some of the things were done orally and some verbally, some with thinking, some in whole group, some in small group, some with visuals. Clearly the finishing project involved making signs and pictures and decorating the school and getting everybody aware, going into other classrooms, teaching younger children, all about how we treat each other's property. So I just wanted to give you this quick gloss over of why I find this particular curricular structure so exciting for Jewish education and why we chose to use it in the Milton Center.